everybody. This is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about the new thriller Roommate, which John and I just saw a few hours ago. And we're also going to talk about the new James Cameron-produced actioner. I guess it would be described as an action film, the 3D film Sanctum. And then we're going to get into our picks of the week, which is like, you know, we were sitting here beforehand thinking, oh, what do I do? What do I do for picks of the week? And I've come up with a couple. But I should have had on prior recording. So let's get right into it again.
Okay. I'm not sure that a Roommate should be called a thriller, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, my enthusiasm for this movie is just, like you were saying, is draining quickly.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to talk about that one first.
Yeah.
And that's a good, energizing way to kick things off.
You know, when I was sitting there watching this movie, and first of all, it made me feel really old. I don't know who these young actors are. I can't believe anyone would recycle a plot this thin to begin with, to just cram it with new actors. But then, I was also thinking, maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's kind of like sugary breakfast cereals. They're not for me anymore. There's no nutritional cinematic value to this. It's a sugar fix for the very young, and that's about it. But you know what I mean? It's just that I thought this movie was idiotic. I was bored. It was formulaic. It was such a cookie cutter movie that I could, in my head, I was like, the scenes would cut, and I remember at one point it's like, cut to coffee shop. Oh, this is where they reintroduced the boyfriend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding! Boyfriend shows up.
It was like clockwork. I want to say really quickly, and then I'll get to the summary just so we can clue people in as to what's happening here. But this movie set everything up in 3 minutes, just so succinctly.
Yep.
But I'll get to that in a sec. Let me just run over the summary, and I do mean run over. Sarah Matthews, played by Minka Kelly, who, by the way, I think is also on TV's Parenthood. She's a autism therapist on Parenthood.
Right.
Anyway, Sarah Matthews, played by Minka Kelly, is a college freshman and fashion design major who is beset by a number of strange occurrences which may be perpetrated by her seemingly innocent and somewhat clingy roommate, Rebecca, played by Leighton Meester. When Sarah considers moving off campus with another friend, Rebecca's dark side emerges. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and that, like you said, that's set up in the first 3 minutes. It's almost Pavlovian the way they want you to respond. Creepy music, staring at the roommate, the weird. Oh, like suddenly a cat shows up. They adopt a kitten. Do you think something bad's going to happen to the kitten, Steve?
Oh,
5, 4, 3, 2. Kitten got hurt.
You know, this movie is so. It was painful. It really was painful. In the first 3 minutes, she arrives at school for the first day, sees her new, gets the whole orientations, her new room and everything, meets her roommate, gets invited to a party, has a boyfriend, new boyfriend or male caller, and I guess a job too, all within the span of 3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
And during the course of this maybe 4 minutes, nothing more than an 8-second shot. It's like boom, 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 boom. Setup.
Isn't that how your college experience went? You went to your freshman dorm. Oh, and by the way, in that 3 minutes too, we also get ominous shots of the empty bed for the roommate hasn't shown up yet.
Oh yeah.
It's like the movie's called The Roommate.
I thought that Transformers 2 set up the going to college scenario in 1 minute in such an abysmal way, but this tops it. This is just
now these actors, these young actors, are all from WB shows. This isn't one on Gossip Girls, and they were all on these teenage TV shows or teenage movies. They're not good actors, but they're it's almost like this is for Gossip Girls is a hit, so we're gonna put this woman in. We're gonna put this young girl in a movie. She was also in Country Strong. She played the. I'm talking about the crazy chick now.
Right.
She was also in Country Strong. She's forgettable in that too, but she's got a following. I guess Gossip Girls has a following, so they're going to crank out this cheddar until it's over, until they've drained every last dime from it.
Minka Kelly, I don't know what else
That's it.
Oh, thanks.
Well, Minka.
Minka Kelly, I don't know what else she's been in other than TV's Parenthood. And, she was Autumn in 500 Days of Summer.
I love that movie, and I don't remember her from it. You know?
Last, 20 seconds of the movie.
Oh, when he moves on to a different girl? That was her? Mm-hmm. She got credit for that?
Spoiler alert, yeah.
Yeah. There was the blonde chick in this one. That was in Band Slam.
Allison Michaela.
Yeah.
Michalka?
She, I think, I'm a big fan of Band Slam, and I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I got a kick out of Band Slam.
She was in Easy A, too.
Yeah, I didn't see Easy A, but I've heard good things about it. She's got some, she's obviously easy on the eyes, but she's got something going on that makes you watch her, and then, of course, they do the, she's victim number 1 or 2 of the creepy roommate. And victim is just there's a ridiculous shower scene where, the roommate beats up on her and rips out her belly ring. Although, again, because this is...
Can we hold this guy's fucking... I gotta edit this shit out. I'm sorry.
Because she's... because this is a PG-13 movie, there's no actual violence. The thing you see one quick shot of a wound after a knife attack, but there's no violence here. But she's she's just there to draw in a fan base and look pretty with a belly ring or something. But I think she has some talent. She's the only one that interests me, and they don't keep her in it long enough.
Yeah, and they do get a close-up shot on the belly ring.
Yeah, but that was ridiculous. That was I've never seen a girl's belly take up a whole screen like that.
This movie was just bad in so many ways. I mean, it's another example of just form over content. It seemed to me like the guy who directed this, Christian Christensen, he's a Dutch filmmaker. I don't know anything else he's done, but his filmography says Zoomers from 2009, Crying for Love in 2008, Life Hits in 2006, never heard of him.
Yeah.
But it's like this guy went to film school, and all the techniques, the how-tos are taught in film school, but when it comes to actually translating it into a movie that builds on character, that's cohesive, it just doesn't work. I mean, this is a jumble of shallow pieces.
Yeah.
And it's just it really wins the shallow award for I don't know how else.
He might have gone to film school at a community college or a correspondence course.
There is a sleekness to this movie, but the thing is, it's too overbearing. Yeah. I mean, the style of it the movie doesn't breathe at all.
No,
it's really just being thrown at you, and they try to manufacture some heightened tension with the editing, but really it's just annoying.
Did you see that ridiculous shot where suddenly the camera's tilted, so it looks like the girl's walking on the wall, she's walking down the hallway, but they tilt it. There's no reason for that. No reason whatsoever. I had a feeling the camera fell over.
There was also the shot where Rebecca had her tattoo moment.
Yeah.
And the camera pulls away at a low angle, and it only lasts for 9 seconds, but it's supposed to make her look ominous, and we're supposed to be this is really freaky weird. It was so freaking film school technique that I just couldn't. I just had to scoff at it. And then the scene where she actually does cut herself, it cuts to a painting
of a scream
of a scream, which is just
there. And then there's
so
a picture of they look at a painting of an eye of the creepy girl's favorite painter. They go to the Museum of Modern Art, and her favorite painter is someone who paints nurses with bloody daggers or stuff. And the eyes are so expressive, so that gives you a close-up of an eye that spins around to frame the turkey at Thanksgiving dinner. Mm-hmm. It was, again, it's wow, did you just get this film editing kit on your computer?
Everybody in this movie is uptight.
Yeah.
There's no relaxation of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
The boyfriend,
the guy from Burlesque.
Yeah, he's got all these quirky Luke Perry boyfriend mannerisms that are supposed to make the audience think, oh, he's instantly the boyfriend in a matter of 5 minutes, 5 seconds, not 5 minutes. I mean, he's got all of the things that are supposed to make the girls comfortable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's very non-threatening. considering he's a frat house, he lives in a frat house and he drums for a band. He's a very non-threatening guy.
Everything, just so cliche. This movie is going to be so dated, incredibly dated.
It already is, and we just saw it 2 hours ago.
Right. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Billy Zane.
I was just gonna bring this.
What do you think is going to happen with Billy Zane? Billy Zane's in the movie.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? He plays a teacher.
He's going to get involved with one of the students on a physical level?
No.
I was shocked. Here's the thing. This kind of made me break a rule where I don't watch movies when I see Billy Zane in the list of characters. The guy fucking.
The guy's got to work.
Yeah, he's got
recession
I
and
don't think
everything.
he has to work. I don't know why.
He's been in a litany of forgettable films over the past 5 years.
Oh yeah, more.
I mean,
he's been the most
Scorpion King sequels.
He's been in. What was he in Scorpion King?
It's Scorpion King, Rise of the Dead.
Oh, the
I think the last
video
thing he was in that I liked was CQ.
Yeah, he almost had
Mr.
nothing
B.
to do with that. But he was also in The Phantom. They tried to make a comic book. He was in.
Yeah, that was his star-making role, but it didn't work. Which, by the way, it did just come out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Titanic. Caledon Hockley.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
Industrialist Caledon Hockley.
Yeah. Okay, you need to burn that part of your memory away. That's too much information. And he was the only thing I think I liked him in was what was
Zoolander. Zane.
No. There was a movie he did. It was Nicole Kidman. Dead Calm. He was a scary motherfucker in Dead Calm.
That was good.
But it's kind of like I'll see anything with Mickey Rourke in it, even though he makes bad ones. But I try to avoid Billy Zane.
He doesn't really have a standard. He's just doing a lot of work, and it's schlocky stuff. But actors got to work.
Well, and the thing that was killing me, I was trying not to laugh out loud, is because this is she's a fashion student, and she gets accepted into class because she's got style and ambition, and her style seems to be wearing one of those goofy fedoras from Newbury Comics.
What did this movie teach you? What's the difference between fashion and style?
Fashion comes and goes, and style is forever, or something like that. Which isn't even an original line in the movie. They call it fashion
I thought
designer.
that it perfectly summed up the movie.
Yeah, it does. This is a fashionable movie. There is no style. I don't know how much more we can beat up on
I can't, other than to say it's hackneyed and it's kind of painful. When the last reel cut in, when you get the cigarette burns up in the corner and there's like 20 minutes left, I'm like, thank God we just finished this, There really wasn't anything...
The big fight scene at the end, the big climactic, confrontation between the roommates.
Oh, you made a good point.
It was cracking me up because the whole premise is that the good girl has a friend named Irene who's a successful fashion person, and but gay, who picks up the bad roommate.
Another scenario where the lesbians are the psycho.
Right. And you know what? The lesbian kiss was the only kiss they really photographed in the whole movie. When the boy and girl kiss, they don't really kiss.
And
the lesbian kiss was a big close-up.
And matching that, the kiss between Rebecca and Billy Zane, the close-ups on the eyes and the lips and the camera
Isn't that
all over
awful?
the face. Oh my God!
I never want to see Billy Zane's lips that big again. But here's the thing: the friend Irene gets seduced by the bad roommate, and we assume they have some kind of affair.
It happens in the ladies' room at a club.
Right. But then at the big climactic scene at Irene's apartment, Irene's tied to the bed, and that's how the bad girl kidnapped her. And there's a big fight, and Rebecca, is that the good girl's name? Rebecca has all these opportunities to untie her best friend Irene, and never does it. I swear she's still tied up in a back lot someplace. They forgot about her in the movie. They forgot about her on set. That poor actress who played Irene is still tied up someplace, cursing out her agent for getting her involved in this.
And you know what I
shit.
thought? I thought when they were being friendly at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Rebecca and Sarah. Rebecca gets Sarah a Devil Wears Prada poster, which she hangs over the bed. I thought that was going to come into play. Like she was going tear it from the wall or strangle her with it. Or
If there was any intelligence on that movie, it would have come into play, and they would have left the poor kitten alone. And I want anyone who's out there from PETA or the SPCA, they should boycott this movie because they abuse a darling little kitten by having him appear in scenes as a prop that you know is going to get hurt, and then the crazy woman hurts her. But not that we ever see it or anything. It's just like
it has to do with a washing machine, a dryer.
Yeah.
And I thought the thing was going to come out as a little puffball.
Well, if it was an R-rated movie, we would have seen the cat later. You would have discovered the cat.
You would have seen like red sludge over the front of the.
Remember Straw Dogs?
Washing machine.
You ever see Straw Dogs? It's Dustin Hoffman and Suzanne George, and they have a cat. And when the bad guys are terrorizing them, they get the cat, and Dustin Hoffman finds it by when he reaches in the closet to turn on the light, and the cat's hanging from the cord. You need to see that. If you're going to make a thriller, a horror movie, anything, you have a cat. You put the cat in danger. You have to show us what happened.
Wasn't there a scene like this in Repo Men last year, where they went to go repossess somebody's organ, and they ended up like putting him in the washing machine or something like that?
Might have been. But
we're getting our laundromat murder scenes.
Well, we had plenty of time to think as we sat through this. You know, I sat through this. Just my mind wandered. I kept checking my watch, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is longer than I thought. They're pretty people. They had stylists galore in this movie to make everyone look non-threateningly attractive, and then it's just a car crash at the end.
It's an affront in many ways to lots of elements of filmmaking.
But I think it's also this just birthed me on and on that this movie doesn't care. It doesn't care about.
No, they don't, and I think that they went out and found a director that could do something slick and maybe even with a sort of like this chintzy European sensibility about what slick is. I mean, it's like if this was an hour and a half MTV video.
Right. It's got that, and it's made for that mentality where you're not interested in plot, camera angle, character, anything. Here's the people you know from TV. You get to pay to see them in a movie. It's a little edgy. But
it's like the director saying, "Look what I know about film.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do something Hitchcock did here. Oh, I can do something Kubrick did here. I can create this kind of manufactured suspense with little music."
No one else has made Billy Zane's lips this big before. I did that.
Done with it.
Yeah,
moving on.
So there is a reason they didn't show us the press this. It was funny today. The 10 o'clock screening was filled with press. Who all were like, "Oh, I guess you drew the last straw, huh?" And before I meant to say this at the beginning, but before we go on, when I was there this morning getting in, I talked to Vinny, who's one of the managers at the Commons, and we spend a lot of time on this show and in our lives complaining about how bad things are at the Commons as far as screenings go. Well, they just
projection-wise.
They just hired a projection manager. They haven't had one since before the Harry Potter screening. So there's been no one in charge of that projection room, no one doing any kind of upkeep, no one doing any kind of maintenance, no one paying any attention. It's all been kind of on automatic. So they have a new projection room manager there. And we'll report back if there's any changes.
Yes, the last fiasco was...
Vinny knows that there's a problem, and they've taken some action. It's taken a long time, but...
the last fiasco was the Dilemma.
Yeah.
Last month. So things are good.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully we'll keep you posted.
Sanctum.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh man, this is a double negative, man. This is just what a bowl of soup. What?
Well, I think if we took a time machine back to 1970 and we were watching movies like The Swarm and Earthquake and Roller Coaster. There were a couple of big disaster movies, Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, that set off a mass of every kind of natural disaster you can imagine. They all had the same kind of things in common. Really bad dialogue. The story was just an excuse for the disaster to happen, but they all had all-star cast. You know, so you got to see George Segal in Roller Coaster, or Paul Newman and Steve McQueen in The Towering Inferno, Gene Hackman in The Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah.
Who's in this movie? Who's in this disaster?
Richard Rossberg.
Who? Who is that? Is he the guy who yells all the time?
Johan Grifol in Fantastic Four.
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic shows up.
This movie was made because it is an exercise in technology and capabilities of the people who made the movie.
Of one person, James Cameron.
Well, James Cameron had employed a couple of guys to make his, deep sea 3D IMAX documentaries.
Right.
What was it, like Into the Deep or...
Yeah, it's shown in science museums and aquariums across the country.
Yeah, Aliens of the Abyss, Ghosts of the Abyss or something, Aliens of the Deep, Titanic Adventure, all made by Andrew Wicht.
Okay.
So he's a deep sea diver, explorer, photographer extraordinaire. And this is his first, I guess, narrative feature attempt after doing these documentaries with Cameron. And technically, yeah, great, cool, wow. Thematically cool, but story-wise, I could care less about this father-son relationship that came about, because what you don't know about this movie is that it's a father-son relationship. It comes to be that. Is it that both characters are exceptionally unlikable.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was a chore to get through the latter half of this movie after the dazzle of the 3D and the underwater stuff wore off.
Yeah, well, that's, and the thing is, it's hilarious, because I had, my first reaction to this is the same reaction I had for 127 days. Who cares about people who do this? It's their own fault. These people cave dive.
Well, we'll get to that. It's the mise en scène of the situation.
What?
It's the effect
reason,
that they're trying to create to create this sort of like boxed-in fear situation.
Well,
worked a whole lot better than The Descent. Not this
that movie is still creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Even before you get to the creatures that live underground.
Right.
That movie was claustrophobic. They had a claustrophobic feeling.
Right.
This, every time there's a few times they're stuck in tight caves, but it's filmed like
and
it's
there's
a water
nothing
park
alien
adventure.
about this. It's like, I was hoping for some alien things.
It would have been
given what little I knew about the movie beforehand, I thought,
Right.
cool. Maybe there would be something like that.
And
It could have been chintzy still.
I'm sorry, but
nothing.
they have a typhoon, right? Was it a typhoon or a cyclone?
Oh, here, I'll do the... summary. Okay. Sanctum follows a team of underwater cave divers on an expedition to the largest, most beautiful, and least accessible cave system on Earth. When a tropical storm forces them deep into the caverns, they must fight raging water, deadly terrain, and creeping panic as they search for an unknown escape route to the sea. Master diver Frank McGuire, played by Richard Rockford, has explored the South Pacific's Elsa Ala caves for months. But when his exit is cut off in a flash flood, Frank's diving team, including his 17-year-old son Josh and financier Carl Hurley, are forced to radically alter their plans. With dwindling supplies, the crew must navigate an underwater labyrinth to make it out. Soon they are confronted with the unavoidable question: can they survive, or will they be trapped forever?
Dun, dun, dun.
And our unavoidable question was, how long is this fucking thing going to go on?
Yeah, are we trapped forever in this movie? Did I
felt
die?
like it. Holy
I've been
crap.
forced to watch this. So in the description it said tropical storm,
Yeah.
right? All right, so they're in this gigantic cave.
Yeah.
And the storm's coming. It's 3 days away, but of course it arrives early just in time to flood this place. I don't care. All we saw was it looked like a rainstorm. It didn't look any like any kind of natural disaster. It looked like heavy rain, and it's suddenly this giant cave is flooding. This thing is miles deep. It looks like it's miles wide. It's all these twists and turns. They can parachute down this fucking hole, but suddenly it's raining and it floods. I don't believe that. Flash flood or not, I just didn't believe anything.
Part of where this movie fails is that in order to set up a certain amount of tension, we have to really know how these things work. And so there's a couple of there's one sort of key disaster that happens maybe a half hour into the movie, and I'm sure not even still why. I mean, the simple answer is that a cave diver, like a scuba diver, has to have oxygen tanks, and the oxygen tank or the the oxygen wires or whatever, tubes become unhitched, and without the oxygen, somebody dies. But what they don't explain specifically is how this happened.
Right. What made it too great?
There's a circumstance where one of the characters puts themselves at risk by what do they call them? Their rebreathing tank.
Right.
Rebreathing. And I had said afterward I needed a rebreathing tank to get through this movie because it was fucking suffocating. But so this, there's some holes in these underwater passages that are, these cave channels that are really small, and they can't get through all their equipment, so they had to leave a rebreathing tank behind.
Right.
And so when something bad happens to one of the members, and I guess they start out with maybe like 8 or 10 people in their expedition. Richard Roxburgh plays this guy, Frank, who is his only concern is just to get out alive, or no matter what, even if there wasn't, his only concern is that everybody gets out alive, and that's great. That's turn off your emotions, do what you have to do, everybody survives.
Right.
But his character is so bent on that it makes him entirely unlikable and insufferable.
Yeah.
He is not someone who makes Sanctum a pleasing ride.
No,
so
he screams every
we
line
see we sort of see he's very preachy, and we see this movie in a way in which I didn't. It starts off with a voiceover by his son. With a sort of well, anyway, I don't want to give it away, but there's a scene towards the beginning of the movie where we're going to assume that we're going to know that at some point, his son is going to be without oxygen and floating in the water, and the movie is going to catch up to that point.
Right.
But so they give the son the voiceover just so you know that, I guess he's supposed to be the main character. Which is totally, the movie was so muddled you didn't really know who the main character was.
Right.
You were thinking it's just like a team, and then have your American financiers who come in on the expedition, and they bring their own arrogance with them that eventually they're undoing. But there isn't really anybody that's likable except for Alice Parkinson, who plays Victoria, the brunette. She seemed the most sensible. She seemed like she had something that you could tether yourself to get through this movie. And there's a moment in this movie where you're like, holy shit. Now that all hope is gone, my hope for this movie is completely gone. Because how are we to suffer through this movie now?
Well, I didn't think she was anything else but eye candy.
I mean, get it?
But,
it's just
the thing that's almost comical in this movie. It's kind of like watching the old Star Trek episodes, and you saw the guy with the guy in the landing party with the red shirt, and you knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
Every character in this movie, with the exception of the first guy who dies, the first time he opens his mouth, you go, oh, he's gone.
Yeah,
Everyone they all seem to hit a fever pitch of annoyance.
They all have their purpose on the team, and that they're humorous to the point where they're going to die.
Yeah, or they're bitchy till they die, or they're something till they die. Every one of their little character traits gets cranked up just enough so it becomes annoying to you, and then they die. You can always see who's going to die.
Is there any truth? Some people say that movies sometimes they're really a conglomeration of great sequences.
Uh-huh.
So are there any sequences in this movie that are standalone great?
No, I didn't see that. There wasn't one thrilling moment, one visual moment. I mean, there were a couple because it's shot in the Cameron's.
Well, there's some memorable moments only because they perhaps have someone's death.
Right.
And there's the moment of holy shit, okay, that person was done away with in a certain kind of way that's like, whatever.
But even, it's like, the deaths are set up so badly, it's kind of like, all right, everyone be careful not to do this. Then someone does that, so the lead guy, the father, can yell again, I told you not to do that, that's what killed you. Moves on to the next one. It's like, ugh. And
it's a lot of yelling.
Yeah,
it's a lot of posturing. It's a lot of ego. I think that's what we've been taught by these dive teams is that there's a lot of egotistical pricks on dive teams.
Sure, You can watch documentaries and see that. But, the thing, I want to, this is being sold to us as 3D, filmed in 3D, using all of James Cameron's tricks and inventions to film it in 3D. There are some scenes here that look great in 3D. Yeah. There are some scenes that look like an overblown Viewmaster in 3D. And then there's this annoying habit of the framing. So there'll be someone in 3D standing in the foreground.
Oh, and it would look totally like a cutout.
Right, it does. It look, or there'd be suddenly branches like waving in your face that like, I guess most people feel like the branches passed over your head. And it's annoying. And plus, here they are. This is what cracked me up. All right, so they're down underground, miles underground, with lamps on their heads.
Yep.
And the lamps start to go out. But they always seem to have enough light to film.
Yep.
No? It's like, well, the lights are going out. Any light
source. You can use your watch.
Yeah, and it's bright enough to film by.
Exactly. John, okay. in spite of everything else, terrific photography, neat technology, why the hell were they doing what they're doing? I mean, why? It's still, why? Because it's there?
It's
like, why?
I have no. You mean why they make movie? Why did the characters?
Why were the characters doing what they're doing? It's like,
or the guy, like if he was whatever his reason was for being there, besides that he was the money man.
He's destroyingly determined.
Yeah, but you could just
both
you could forgive Mr. Fantastic for losing his shit at the end because if you had something to balance the other side, But the fact that the father and son start reading poetry.
Oh my God.
And that
in Kubla Khan.
Yeah.
In Xanadu did Kubla Khan, a stately pleasure dome decree.
Right. So
my God.
Believe me, if you don't know that poem, it will be driven into your head by the time you get out of this. And they're like climbing up this little skinny gully, and the father starts saying it like we haven't heard it enough. And the son's like, well, I didn't know you like poetry.
I just want to go get some fucking pancakes with syrup.
Yeah. It was already, there's enough syrup.
Squeeze the syrup all over the place.
And then it's like, oh, teach me the poem, Dad. So when they're climbing, they're repeating this poem. And then at the end, even though, the kid hasn't had time to learn it, he's saying, that's how the legacy gets passed on from father.
If perhaps he were a 7-year-old and his father were telling him a bedtime story or something like that.
Right, or, Hop on Pop. If he was making something like Dr. Seussian, if they were climbing, it was a little kid and like 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, fine. But not to read the Coolidge,
Go Dog Go.
Either way, that would make sense. The kid was a baby anyway, but that was the silliest link of that not only shows us that's how we know the father has a soul because he reads poetry and he not only reads it, he's memorized that freaking poem.
The whole
and then the bonding comes because it's the side that the son's never seen, the caring side of his father, who reads poetry, and he's going to pass it on to his son by teaching him how to read this friggin' poem.
I just wanted, it was like scratching fingers on a blackboard.
But again, I think it's part of Cameron's trouble. I know he's only the producer, but his thumbprints are all over this.
Yeah, I mean,
part of his trouble as a storyteller.
As far as the structure of the story goes, there is that moment, but this is nothing like Ripley telling a story to Newt in order to make Newt feel comfortable in this dangerous environment. This is it's just complete. It's like, maybe this is different for Cameron in the sense that he's doing this with male characters. Well, you usually have a powerful female character telling a really kind story, or doing something comforting that the audience can relate to. But here it was not.
Right, but he had a lot of these moments in Avatar too. They were just cheesy, tree-huggy, granola-chewing, and just badly done.
Well, I did enjoy Avatar. For all your guys' criticism of it, I must say I did it. But hey, Sanctum, we can end it this way. It did teach me the term fizzed up. And I was totally fizzed up. Which means it's another word for the bends.
Yeah, this movie will give you the bends.
So shall we move on to Picks of the Week?
Maybe we shouldn't apologize. We didn't do it, but it's been a bad week for us.
Yeah.
And we're doing our public duty by saving people from
Not totally. I mean, I did see, we'll talk about this next week or the week after, but I saw
No.
Cedar Rapids.
Save it.
Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
I can't say it's a loss because I dig the movie. So, but we'll talk about it later.
Right.
Pick of the week, John.
Yes. I'm gonna do a movie. This was something sent to me out of the blue. Didn't know I was getting it. Didn't request it or anything. It's a movie called Skin, which came out this year. I don't think it hit theaters, and I swear, if it had gotten the kind of push it needs to get attention, Sophie, I'm trying to look up her name now, Okanando. She was in Hotel Rwanda. She was also in Aeon Flux. I'm going to find her name as soon as the IMDb kicks up. But anyway, if this movie had gotten a studio behind it, she'd be picking out her dress for the Oscars this year.
Really?
Yeah, at least as a nomination. It's a story. It takes place in South Africa. It's a story of there's a white couple. It's the father is Sam Neill. I'm not sure who played the mom, but it's a white couple whose daughter is born with black features, kinky hair, darker skin, fuller lips, bigger backside. All these things that the South African government used to classify you as racially white or black. It doesn't matter that both her parents were white. It's something to do with the ancestry of South Africans being mixed with African blood. And so it's kind of like, it's like when you do DNA in high school with fruit flies. You make fruit flies, and some have blue, some have round red eyes, some have green eyes, whatever. There's a strain of African blood in South Africans. Sophie Okanado. And so their child is born with black characteristics, even though she has white parents. But under South African law, she's qualified as black. And the parents have to fight to get her race changed and prove that she is white. And then when she grows up as a young woman, she falls in love with a black man. Her family disowns her. She goes off and lives in the black community, who at first accept her, but then they have a child. But because her family fought so hard to classify her as white, that's against the law for a white woman to sleep with a black man, and the state wants to arrest her, dissolve the marriage, and take the baby. And now she has to fight to prove she's black. And this goes on for 30 years. And it's fascinating because I didn't know that much about the actual laws of South Africa at the time. Sophie Okanado does a fabulous job with the acting. Sam Neill's real good too as the dad. Lots of drama, lots of humor. Just a great movie. Just great time. So, and again, totally unexpected. Skin, yeah. Directed by, that's the problem with Anthony Fabian. Don't know if he's done much before, but a great movie. I would highly recommend it.
I will definitely check it out. I chose All About Eve. And we were talking about
Classic.
this beforehand, and I will admit I had not seen the film. Well, I'd seen it when I was a kid, believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
But I hadn't seen it in years, and Turner Classic Movies rebroadcast it a couple of weeks ago, and I was just transfixed. And then I guess maybe they were in cahoots with Fox on this, because Fox sent the Blu-ray, which is actually kind of a neat repackaging, basically, of the prior restoration they did for All About Eve in 2002. Mm-hmm. So all the extras that were on that disc are on the Blu-ray, and it looks great, and it has a 25-page book that comes with it. I just had lots of admiration for Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and the commentary is very informative. One of them by Christopher Commentary.
Christopher Commentary?
One of them by Christopher Mankiewicz.
Okay.
His relative. And another one by the author of All About Eve,
Right,
which you were
is a
telling me about.
fascinating book.
I'm eager to read it. Haven't read it, but yeah, this was just such a riveting film, and for a movie that has so little action and is based so much on dialogue, and this is such like many people consider it one of the most perfect scripts ever, one of the best written movies ever, and Bette Davis is fantastic. There's the story about how she was replaced, or she replaced Claudette Colbert because Claudette Colbert had got into an accident, I guess, on one of other films, and a couple weeks beforehand, Bette Davis came in, took the role, and just like ran with it. And I think it turned out that there was 14 Oscar nominations for the film.
I'm not sure.
2 of them were in the Best Actress category, and I can't recall the other actress. It was Bette Davis and Baxter. Anne Baxter. She had insisted that she would be put up for the award in the Best Actress category, and later afterwards she admitted that she probably should have done
Instead of supporting actress?
Instead of Best Supporting Actor, because what they did was they canceled each other out, and the award was won, I guess, by Julie Holliday.
Oh,
who I think was also I forget the name of the film, but she was in Adam's Rib. She was
right.
But All About Eve, just a terrific movie.
George Sanders is Addison DeWitt.
Oh yeah,
don't you love that?
You know what I really liked about him was he was the voice of Shere Khan in the Jungle Book, and as a voice to an animated character, that is one of the greatest.
Yeah,
one of the greatest.
Yeah, and it's funny because obviously I'd seen the Jungle Book a lot more than a lot earlier, but I also seen a lot more before I finally got to All About Eve, because the Jungle Book's one of my favorites. And so when you first hear him talk, you're like, oh, Shere Khan. You don't realize, he's an actor. Okay.
I'm kind of bummed though. I didn't know this, but the book, in his bio in the book, says that he shot himself at 65 in 1973, and he had predicted that he was going to do this years earlier. When he said he felt like it was going to be over, he's just going to do himself in, and he did. And so the liner notes for the Blu-ray DVD didn't shy away from
the
details of what happened to some of the actors.
Well,
but
I just read a cheesy paperback about Bette Davis and Joan Crawford in their legendary rivalry. I got it for a buck.
Well, Joan Crawford, I think she showed up at the premiere for All About Eve, and she's like oh my God, in her makeup, she's like a nightmare. And this is one of the extras on the discs. They have a newsreel footage of the All About Eve premiere where Joan Crawford appears at the end, and you're like, whoa, that's creepy.
But that was the thing, just the fact that she showed up at Betty's premiere would cause all sorts of fireworks, and just it's a great movie, and I'll pass on that book to you because it's worth reading about all the stuff. Mankiewicz had a great career, but he was like I'm
eager to learn more about him.
Yeah,
I've been reading
his work on Cleopatra.
Yeah. Oh God, he went through hell on that movie. That was just like it tore his soul out, which kind of it's very defeatist because he was such to me such a Hollywood stalwart.
Yeah.
And Columbia grad, really smart, just very very knowledgeable about what he was doing and how to handle people. But Cleopatra just tore him apart. But anyway, All About Eve, a great example about how life is reflected in movies, or movies reflect, are just something of a mirror of life, as far as Bette Davis's career and some of the things that happened before and after All About Eve. Kind of prophetic in a weird way. So I highly recommend it. So I think that's all for this week.
Oh, and Marilyn Monroe is.
Oh, and Marilyn Monroe is the starlet.
We can't just let that go. And even that is a good performance, but it's like her first or second time on film or something.
Something like that. This was All About Eve was 1950.
It's great. That caused a lot of trouble too.
Yeah.
She was picked to be the next starlet in line in the film and in the studio system.
Yep.
She was in that movie, and Bette Davis knew this. She was looking at the future in her movie.
Yep.
A future changes she didn't like. So it's again, this works on a lot of levels, and it's just entertaining as hell. So
absolutely. I'm actually going to be watching it again later today because I was talking about my girlfriend Sarah about watching it again. So we're going to go hook up with, learn, some more about All About Eve. Yeah. So I can't think of anything else we were going to talk about, and I'm thinking it's time to sign off. So hey, check us out online. We're at post-movie.net, and we're on Facebook. And please leave us a review on iTunes. We'd be so eternally grateful if anybody out there could do that for us. And if you have any questions, send us an email. We're at postmoviepodcast@gmail.com. So until next week, I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
So long, everyone.